But yeah, I'm super into all of that right now. I'm into some strange things.
Don't believe the lie that when you're not fulfilled, when you're not jiving, like it'll work somewhere else.
I just looked at him. I was like, what's going on with us?
You do start having those desires stirred up in your heart, biologically, hormonally, it's normal.
I cannot wait to see what God does in your kid's life and my kid's life, because we were obedient.
It's harder to romanticize your life when you're overbooked, when you're overbusy, when you're overstimulated.
The relationships that could be built and all that if we just put the dang phones down.
Hi, Olivia.
How are you today?
I'm really good. I'm so glad you're here for episode 4.
I know. I'm so excited. Hi, welcome in. This is Related to Motherhood podcast, episode 4. This is Mary.
Hi, I'm Marianne.
And I'm Olivia. And we're the hosts of Related to Motherhood. And today we're going to talk about something a little lighter, a little bit more fun.
I feel like the last episode got a little deep.
It did.
And who knows? This one might get deep.
I know,
because we're just deep people. I feel like
we are. But today we're going to talk about everything related to romance and kind of Hollywood and reality, or Hollywood versus reality, and how we romanticize our life every single day.
We hope to keep this episode PG because we're pretty much PG type people. Yeah. We're not too risque or anything.
So what is the first thing you think of when you hear the word romance? What is the first thing that pops in your mind?
Definitely rom-coms is the first thing that comes to my mind. Like that storybook, like passionate, kind of The Notebook type movie where it's like you care about each other so much, you're like screaming at each other, and then you're, making up and that sort of thing. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, but I don't think that's like the romance we should be striving for.
Yeah. I don't think it's attainable, long run. I think relationships sometimes start off that way, but they don't typically stay that way.
Mm-hmm. The first thing that comes to mind with romance in my own life is like a commitment from my husband to myself and vice versa, and like having fun together.
Yeah. The first thing I think about when I think about romance in my life and between my husband and I is working on things, like constantly working on being better in our marriage. Does that make sense? So working on fulfilling each other's needs, working on just being better for each other, better spouses. So that might be a bad thing, but I guess the first thing I think of is work.
As I get older, I do think I have a little bit less of a starry-eyed view of romance.
For sure.
Whereas I used to watch those proposals on YouTube where it's like a dancing whole choreographed thing proposal. And my proposal was not like that because my husband's not like that.
Yeah.
And I think the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that everyone has their own personalities, and we do need to learn our own love languages, learn our husband's love languages, and kind of to meet the needs of our husbands and they meet the needs of us. But my husband trying to do a choreographed proposal would be the most cringe thing ever because it's not him. And I didn't fall in love with someone who is really extra like that. And when you look at couples like that, that's amazing for them. But they have their own pitfalls too that are like totally different from us. I've heard before that someone who's a little bit more extravagant in that way may also be a little bit more emotional, where they kind of need emotional validation a lot. And my husband doesn't need emotional validation a lot. He's very steady. And while he doesn't give me choreographed dance routine proposals, he's steady. And I love that about him.
I think for me, my idea of romance really changed like the longer I was married, or the longer I've been married. So I too, when I got married or when I got engaged or whatever, had these big grand ideas of what I thought it looked like. And it's like you said, it's like, oh, you want to make me happy in a marriage, like stability and just stability, I guess, is a really big one, but just simple, like just the simple, that's
and knowing you, knowing you deeply,
like not having to put on any airs or anything like that. Just really knowing me is what that's the things now that are romantic to me.
And a lot of it is just growing up, because when you are a young woman in high school, in college, early 20s, you don't have a lot of experience with relationships and with romance, and so we really are indoctrinated with the romantic dramas, TV shows, and movies. How do you think that shaped how you viewed romance when you were younger?
When I was younger, obviously, just like every other little girl, it started off with like princess movies. I mean, I can literally think of our almost 7-year-old little girl now, and just how she's so obsessed, and I can just see it happening, and I'm like, but just, you have this idea of how you think it's going to be, and how he's going to be your prince and all of these things, and then like reality hits. And what's funny is when I first got married, I would have told you, like, honestly, like, he's not my prince at all. This is rough. Like, I don't know what I did.
When you first got married?
When I first probably like the year after I first got married. We've been married going on 7 years, 6 years. You're going on 7 years. I'm going on 6 years.
We just hit 7 years married.
So we must be going on 7 years. Yeah, I think. I don't know.
Something
We've
been
like married a while. But it's funny to see how your like priorities of romance change. So I used to feel like I needed like gifts and just the elaborate Facebook post of you're just the greatest thing in the world.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it's just so it seems so silly now.
Some relationships do have more of that Hollywood movie romance, and I think that's fantastic. I really do. I think some relationships just thrive off that dynamic. I know a few couples in my own life where he really is a little bit more extravagant with the really thoughtful gifts and experiences, and he does more like coordinating and organizing to create these memories together. But a lot of us don't have that, and it's not, and I've learned with a little bit more maturity that it's not a bad thing, because truly, I say this truly, every relationship, every dynamic is different, but my husband doesn't plan elaborate romantic experiences for us, but he truly does put my happiness ahead of his own. He does such a fantastic job of making sure I, like we said in the last episode, get rest, and that my cup is full, and that it means so much to him when we're connecting and we're on the same path and all of that. And to me, that is really romantic, that he cares like that.
Yeah. Seriously, I think once you've gotten some years behind you and you're like have grown together, you are walking this journey of life, there's shifts. There's a shift of like what once was amazing to you, like the smaller, I don't know. I just feel like once you've been married for a while, it's just those small little things that make up a whole day that are just like, I love this person, and I'm so thankful that I get to spend the rest of my life with them. So based on just, yourself better than anyone, what would you say your love languages?
Okay. Love languages. So most people probably have heard of the 5 love languages. What are they? They're gifts, acts of service, physical touch, words of affirmation, and quality time. Those are like the 5 based on a book, I think, by Gary Chapman, all about the 5 love languages. And I honestly feel, this might be a hot take, I don't know, that love languages can change over time based on the life circumstance you're in, the situation, where your family's at, that sort of thing. So I do think mine has changed over time, but in the time of life I'm in right now, for the last several years at least, mine is physical touch. Isn't that funny? Doesn't that sound kind of like a man? I don't know. Everyone always thinks men love physical touch, but my husband is not a physical touch type person.
Yeah.
He loves physical touch, you know what I'm saying? But not like physical touch. And so I love it. I feel like if we're in an argument and he's across the living room from me, it feels like there's a chasm between us, versus if we're in an argument and we are sitting next to each other holding hands, I can emotionally regulate so much better. That's how I feel supported. That's how I feel loved. That's how I feel acknowledged. And it's out of his comfort zone to give that to me whenever we're not like totally jiving. But I want to do my best to feed into his love language, even when we're like not on the same page. And he's, especially lately, been doing the same for me. So mine's physical touch. I would say my second, I mean, I want all five. Okay. I want all five,
but if you had to pick.
But I feel like, what truly makes you feel loved? Like, I appreciate gifts. I appreciate words of affirmation. I appreciate quality time. But the way I feel loved is through physical touch and acts of service. What are yours?
So we called our husbands before we started this.
Oh, they were not thrilled.
Yeah, they weren't.
They were like, "You're putting me on the spot."
And he says that he thinks which I love to get like his opinion and, kind of base off of that too. But he thinks that my love language is words of affirmation, which totally believe that it's in the lines somewhere of like, I think my love language.
Yeah, I could see that too.
But I think my love language, what just like fills
your cup,
fills me up, is quality time. And it could be literally sitting on the porch doing nothing. I just crave it, and I feel like if I don't know, I just feel so mistreated if I don't get it.
I feel like quality time in particular, like your poor husband, because I feel like quality time, especially with a young family, with young kids, with like him focusing on building his career and all those things, it's hard to get quality time. I mean, you guys have quantity time.
Yeah.
But how do you get that quality time?
It's very hard and very complicated sometimes. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of the time, honestly, our kids are still there. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it can literally be our kids are out in the yard. It's like
you're connected.
Yeah, where there's no phones.
No phones.
We're
That's
not
huge.
Yeah, there's no phones. We're not watching a movie. We're literally just sitting on the porch, watching our kids play in the yard, talking about our day, talking about our dreams and our hopes and all of that. Like, that is just, it just feeds me. And he loves it too. Like, he really does. He loves to just have a good, deep conversation with his wife.
I read that there was a study that said they surveyed hundreds of older married couples that had been married a long time, and found that the number one thing that kept their marriages strong and thriving even into older age was having 2 hours every day of connected talking. So it's not like, hey, go take care of the kids. Oh, I'm turning over the laundry. Yada. It's like and I could say for my mom and stepdad, I want to say they've been married 16 years now. They love to talk to each other. They call each other and talk to each other about everything.
You've said the same thing about Teb and I.
Yeah.
You and Tevin, over here, we just talk to each other.
You love to talk to each other. I think all of the really happy married couples that I know just genuinely enjoy each other's company and just enjoy each other's minds and connecting and talking. And I think regardless of whether it's your love language or not, that's such a big part of romance, is enjoying each other's company, focusing on each other, putting away the dang phones. And without that, according to science, without like 2 hours a day, it's hard to keep a thriving marriage.
Still prioritizing it, even whenever you're in like a rough season of, I know my husband and I lately, we were just talking about it a couple of days ago. I just looked at him. I was like, what's going on with us? We're not fighting. We're not like, everything's fine. There's nothing big going on, but like, we're just not vibing. We're not, what's going on? And he's just like, not like, he's like, everything is not going to be perfect all the time, but still prioritizing that time with each other is super important, because it's like you were talking about in the last episode. It's, like you were talking about the lotion.
What was I saying? Oh,
you were talking about how it's like taking care of
maintenance.
Yeah. Yes, maintenance, not lotion. Maintenance. But yeah, it's like maintenance, and I just think that's been really beneficial for us.
So what would you say your husband's love language is?
Definitely physical touch, and I mean physical touch.
Okay.
She doesn't mean physical touch, but he means physical touch.
So it's just like, I mean, I think that's most husbands.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a way that I think God gave husbands and wives to connect on such like a spiritual and soulful level that you can't connect with anyone else in your life, like in that way.
Yeah. I know for him, it's a recharge type thing. And it is a way, we are in a very busy season of life with 2 kids, small kids, raising babies, him working all of the time. Just, we're in a busy season. So it is like a way that whenever life is chaotic outside, for us to recharge and be one. And I think that's one of the reasons God designed it. So that's definitely his love language. Now, his second one, I would say, it's hard. I didn't think about this one. I'd say his second one is probably words of affirmation. He acts like he doesn't, like, it doesn't do anything for him, but you can definitely watch it puff his feathers a little bit.
Well, I think most people, not everybody probably, but most people, at least for myself and my husband, I could see it with you and with your husband, Tevin, being acknowledged in the roles that you're doing well really does intrinsically motivate you to step into that role more. It's sort of like we've talked about before, where you and I are striving to become more feminine because by doing so, it allows our husband to step more into the masculine role. And so the more that we can verbally acknowledge the way we appreciate how they're serving our families, I think the more they take pride in that.
Yeah, I agree. My husband, I'm obviously a stay-at-home mom, so he is the sole provider, provides for us, and he is very, he works really hard, and just the joy that it brings him, and just the way that it changes the atmosphere of our home whenever he just is encouraged, like, thanks so much for working so hard so that I can stay at home with the kids, or whatever. It just really does change the whole atmosphere of our house. And it's so, like, what a small thing. Like, you can literally change the atmosphere with such a small sentiment. Like, why wouldn't you?
That makes me want to talk a little bit about how, speaking of romance, it's not just between us and our husbands, but I've been seeing little trends go on online, like romanticizing your own life. Do you think that's positive or negative? Do you do it? Should we do it? What do you think about romanticizing your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I definitely attempt to do it. It doesn't happen every single day, but I try to, because I am a stay-at-home mom. And
do you think it's good though, or do you think it's like more too much like trad wife, where it's like you're just glorifying something that's hard? And you know.
I don't, but that's because I know what God says, and I know that he called me to this. I know that I mean, I know that he called me to this, so why wouldn't I find deep joy in what he called me to do every single day?
It's almost like looking at your life through rose-colored glasses.
I do think that sometimes, I mean, I don't know. I think that it can seem not authentic and things like that, but I think it is a conscious choice to romanticize your life and to find the joy. So
love is a choice, not necessarily a feeling all the time.
Right.
Loving and appreciating your life really is a choice and not just a feeling of the circumstances.
Yeah.
So what are ways that you feel like you romanticize your life? Because I've seen you doing that a lot lately, and it's inspired me.
So there's several little things that I do, but a couple of them are like, I will get dressed during the day. I don't go anywhere ever. But like I'll get dressed and all sorts of things. I will
I feel like your coffee routine is pretty like ritualistic and
my coffee
mindset.
And my feeding my sourdough starter and dinner, like cooking dinner and doing homeschool with our kids, just
walking outside to feed your chickens.
Yeah, like all of it is just, and it's not like weird. You know how, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
I feel like it's almost easier. The joy. It's almost easier to romanticize your life when you do lean into the slow living mentality. Yeah. Don't you think? If you're on the rat race hamster wheel, I do think it would be harder to to romanticize your life, to slow down and appreciate.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's not something that happens every single day because there are busy days and busy times, but I do find that at the end of the days, whenever I'm able to slow down and really soak up this blessing of being a stay-at-home mom and, you know, being a wife and all of those things, then I really do just feel more fulfilled at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? If I'm able to slow down and embrace all the little moments that make up our day, then it really does just make it sweeter. What about you? What do you think about the whole romanticizing of life? And especially because our lives are very different. You do like...
I do live a little bit more of a fast-paced life in that I enjoy going and exploring with my kids. We're very often, a couple times a week, going out of the house to explore a new museum, to go to the zoo, to hang out at the beach, to meet up with a friend. Like, we do live a more fast-paced lifestyle than you. But I will say the concept of romanticizing your life is pretty new to me. It's not something I had really thought of or specifically tried to implement in my life until recently. And just like what I just said, it is easier on the days when I'm feeding my starter and doing some chores. And it's almost like it's easier in the mundane moments because when you're out and about on an adventure with your kids, which I do often, it's a lot of coordination, a lot of thought processes of trying to figure out how I get the kids from here to there without meltdowns, and having to coordinate with the people I'm meeting with. And there's a lot more of my headspace taken up with just like the coordination. So it is harder in those moments. Not to say like when I get home, I can't slow it down. And it's almost like when I think of romanticizing your life, it's almost like you're living in a state of gratitude. And I do think I'm pretty good at that. But not really on the busy days and the go days. And so some people are living in a constant state of go. And from my experience, where I'm kind of living a split life between like some days are go and some days are chilling, it's hard to, I feel like, live in that state of gratitude and live in the mindset of romanticizing your life when you've overbooked yourself.
Yeah, I think that it's like you said earlier, it really is just a conscious decision. So I found myself probably like, I don't know, several days ago, a family member that Mary and I are very close to just had a baby, and I found that myself,
love you, girl.
I know. I found myself like, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to have a baby again. This is so, you know what I'm saying? Like getting that feeling of just like, ugh. But God really did shift my mind. I actually made a reel about it, of my having baby years are over, but now I'm in this beautiful season of getting to love on mamas who just had babies. So it's just like little shifts like that. Like if you can just find the sweetness in every little moment, at least try. And it's going to be really hard sometimes. And it's not always going to happen. And that's okay too, because we're all human. But just trying and searching for it, it really, I know I don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
I just feel, you know what I'm saying? I just feel so thankful.
It's interesting the way you worded that, in that you were feeling a little bit self-pitying, but then when you focused outward on how you could serve someone else, it took away that bitterness and replaced it with sweetness. Like, how great is that?
Yeah. There's just joy that you can find in just about everything, which seems hard, but if you can ever make the conscious decision, it really just does make life sweeter.
Another concept I think is important, and I'm continually having to work on this one. People close to me will know. Like I said, it's harder, I think, to live in a state of gratitude. It's harder to romanticize your life when you're overbooked, when you're overbusy, when you're overstimulated. And our culture is over entertained. So you constantly have a podcast in your ear. You constantly have a YouTube video pulled up. You're constantly scrolling social media. You're constantly watching TV with your husband. Like, all of these outside stimuli, I don't think are like biologically what our bodies need to thrive. And so particularly in our culture of technology, we as people, but especially as moms who set the tone for our home, need to focus on like disconnecting from those external stimuli in order to find peace and view your life in a certain way.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. I actually was just talking to you recently about the whole, what is it called? The circadian rhythm. Yeah.
Olivia's really interested in learning about her circadian rhythm.
Yes, I'm super into it right now. And I mean, I just think it all goes into play, like of putting your technology down at a specific time. And I don't know, you think about the relationships think about the memories that would be made, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm super into all of that right now. I'm into some strange things. I asked Mary, I text her and I was like, hey, I don't know about all this circadian rhythm stuff. Is this like horoscope?
Yeah. She's like, I just Googled it and a bunch of horoscope stuff came up. Like, should I not be? I'm like, no, honey. Circadian rhythm is like a biological thing. Like, I don't know I don't know what
you Google.
Yeah. It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that that there's a reason that things are the way that they are. And I don't know. I just think that the relationships that could be built and all that if we just put the dang phones down. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. What are your feelings, or what do you think about, because I believe that there seems to be like young women really intrigued by Hollywood and what Hollywood says about love and romance and all of that, kind of fast forwarding and trying to speed through to get their life started.
I'm interested to know from where you guys are listening, what the culture is where you live, because where we live our hometown is a small southern town in Florida, the United States of America, where a lot of young women at 16, 17, 18 years old get pregnant before marriage. A lot of them still in high school. And it really has kind of become an epidemic where we're from. And we spend a lot of time talking about like, why?
Yeah.
Particularly because we're raising young women, right? You have almost 7-year-old. I have a 3-year-old, little girls. And we're trying to figure out like, what the heck is making all of these young women want to, because we know a lot of them want to get pregnant as soon as they can. And
we wanted to.
And we wanted to.
We wanted to. So what was it? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to start a family before I think it was within God's timing. And you had
I did.
And you did start a family. You know, you did get pregnant.
I was not married though. Don't recommend.
And don't recommend. And I feel like a lot of the young women are looking at kind of Hollywood's view of romance, or even the people in their lives the ones with families, and they want the white picket fence. They want to be married. They want to have a family. It's almost like there's a void that they want filled. And if they get pregnant, it like speeds up everything.
Yeah.
And so, while I think it's beautiful to romanticize motherhood and marriage and our lives within the bounds of a healthy, stable marriage, I think there is a little bit of danger in encouraging your daughters encouraging your daughters to idolize marriage and idolize motherhood before it's an appropriate time for them. Because it is hard to wait. It's hard in that season of waiting when you're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old and you're in love with your boyfriend, or you want to be married so badly, and you're in the season of waiting and God's telling you to wait. It's hard in that season of waiting if you're feeding yourself all of this like Hollywood romantic stuff.
Yeah.
Or not even that, like the mommy bloggers and stuff online where their lives look so happy. They have their little families. They're so cute. If I just get pregnant, like I can have that too. But it's out of God's timing.
See, I struggle because I do want my daughter to want to be like me, right? Doesn't every, like, I don't know. I want her to be the best parts of me. And the best parts of me are, number one, that Jesus is everything to me. But I'm a dang good homemaker and a dang, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm a good wife. So it's hard because I do want her to aspire to be like me. But at the same time, I agree. Like, you don't want to.
If you give it too much of your thought processes to it too early, you're making it harder in that waiting.
Yeah. It's very, very, I feel like there's a very fine line. Our little girl is, like you said, almost 7. So she is very into she's going to be like a preteen, I feel like, before long.
My 3-year-old basically is a doula already, where she likes to reenact, like, helping someone give birth. So she is all about motherhood, and she's only 3.
Yeah. How in the heck do you pour into
showing the beauty?
Showing the beauty of, I'm so thankful that this is my life, but at the same time, like, protecting their little hearts and making sure that they stay guarded, you know? It's very complicated. I had never really thought about it much.
I think we have some time to think about it. I think once a little girl gets to be like 12, 14, 15, 17, there starts to become like a desire stirred up in their hearts for a lot of them, not everybody, to, I want a family, you know, I want a husband who loves me. I want children. Like, children bring most women so much fulfillment that you want that.
Isn't it also really hard? Because I can tell you, I felt all of those things. I mean, I remember being like 13, 14, 15 years old and just longing for like relationship and like, you know what I'm, and I can tell you, I mean, I believe a lot of it, a lot of the time, but for me specifically, was because there was something in me that I was searching for. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to fill a void. So, you know, just really pouring into our little girls now. And
so do you think our daughters will have that void though? Because ideally, God willing, they're both going to have a mom and a dad in the same household that love each other and model good behavior, model good relationship, and in a home that neither one of us grew up in.
Yeah, which that's what gives me hope.
A little bit of backstory: my mom and dad separated when I was about 8 years old, and then my mom remarried my stepdad around when I was 11 or 12, and my dad died around the same time, and so it was a mixed family dynamic for me. And then
so my mom and dad got divorced when I was, I think, about 2, and my mom remarried. So both coming from broken homes, I mean, I can just tell you that the longing I felt for that was because of issues that I had in my heart. It had not, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that Hollywood didn't play into it, because I'm sure if I fed off of that, but it was a deeper longing that none of that would have ever fixed. You know what I'm saying? That honestly did not get fixed until I decided that enough is enough and Jesus has got to take over. And that didn't get fixed until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I've been married for 7 years. So, I mean, I was married and still
that hole was not
there's
filled.
always going, until you fix the root cause of the pain. It's never, there's always
having
going to be
a baby,
something. Yeah,
having a baby
you're gonna want another baby,
yeah.
or you're gonna, your husband's mistreating you. You're going to seek out an affair or something. You don't ever know. Like, you're always going to be searching for something until you deal with the root cause of why, what's going on. So
if you're a young woman listening and you do have that desire stirred up in your heart to have a baby and think that that's going to catapult you to be able to get a house and have a husband and your life start, I encourage you to lean into Jesus and find fulfillment in him and fill that hole to where you are a stable, healthy-minded woman who is ready to welcome a baby into the world, versus trying to like circumvent God's timing in your life. And if you're an more mature mom who has older kids, maybe who are in high school or are already adults, and you feel like you did a good job speaking this into their life and helping them during that period of waiting, whenever you do go through puberty and then you do start having those desires stirred up in your heart, biologically, hormonally, it's normal. And you feel like you did a good job helping your children through that and getting them safely into adulthood and into stable, healthy marriages. I would love your advice.
Yeah,
seriously. Because we're starting to think about this now with our young girls. And it's something we're going to have to be tackling in the next, 5 or 6 years. And so I would love to hear your perspectives.
Me too. I think something we have just become very cautious about is, how are we helping our little girl with her self-esteem? How are we, how is her and her daddy's relationship? Is daddy, loving on her? And is daddy spending time with her? And is mommy, all of these things. So just like really, number one, giving God complete control, and trusting that he's going to take care of her and that he's going to lead us the way that we should lead her. But yeah, it's hard.
I love all three of my parents deeply. My mom, my biological dad, and my stepdad. And I'm so appreciative of everything that they've given into my life and how much they've taught me. But one thing I really never had is that, like, in my recollection, when I was a preteen, when I was a teenager, something that I didn't have was that father-daughter bond in almost a romantic sense, in that he is treating me so special, and so that's all I would accept in a relationship. My stepdad, I love him to death. He's so great, but he and I never had that like mommy or daddy-daughter bond. And then my biological dad, we were separated, and he passed away before I hit puberty and really could lean into that, right? And I don't know exactly what your experience was, but I just pray that my daughter has that experience through her teenage years with my husband, so that he can model romance, and it's not just from social media and from celebrities and from movies and that sort of thing.
I think too, them watching us having a healthy relationship, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like there's, especially our little girl, she's at such a susceptible age that, you know, she's just watching everything.
Mm-hmm.
She's watching everything. And her watching her dad and I have a healthy, not perfect, but healthy relationship, where we love Jesus first and then love each other, you know, next. And it's just, I don't know. I'm so I'm so hopeful, and I cannot wait to see what God does in your kid's life and my kid's life, because we were obedient.
I also wanted to say that I'm saying it to myself, and I'm saying it to you and anyone listening, that love can continue to grow. It can also die out, and then it can be revived again, right? Marriage is a covenant under God to commit your lives to someone else and to their service. And even when the butterflies go away and the sparks die, they really can, and I've seen this in my own life, be revived again. You know you're married to a good person. You care about their betterment. They care about your betterment. You guys have totally fallen off the tracks. You can come back together and continue to flourish. And don't believe the lie that when you're not fulfilled, when you're not jiving, like it'll work somewhere else, because there's an issue in your own heart. There might be an issue in your husband's heart, and it's not going to just automatically work with someone else. You'll have the same issues come up again after the sparks die again, because sparks from every relationship I've seen that stand any test of time, they ebb and flow.
The best relationships I have ever seen in my life, where I've looked at their relationship and I've been like, whoa, y'all are like the dream. Y'all communicate well. Y'all, whatever your list is. I can't say it out loud. I can't say it out loud.
So Drew and I don't even know if I want to put this in here. I might cut this out. We don't have many relationships to look to model.
Out of all of the relationships that I know, like if my husband and I could, and we have agreed upon this, if we could look at one relationship and be like, man, y'all communicate really well, like y'all are living a life that we aspire, you know, y'all been through some stuff, whatever. They all have like gone through the trenches. You know what I'm saying? They've gone through like the worst, like way worse than my husband and I have ever gone through. And they really are a good, strong couple. They're not perfect, but like they're a good, strong couple. And that's, you know what I'm saying? So that goes to say that like they stuck it out. And
the ones I'm thinking of, I feel like the way the sparks were revived were a lot of times through fun. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like through mutual bonding experiences where you find a hobby that you both enjoy to do together.
Yeah.
You find something that you can do together where you're spending time together. You're talking like we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
You're spending time connecting, quality time, having deep relationships, aspiring for the future, talking about your goals and dreams. Like, I think that's how sparks are revived.
Yeah. You sometimes, like, what is it? You have to be tried by fire, and it just, you know what I'm saying? It makes relationships stronger and all of those things. And
well, if you're together for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, life happens.
Yeah.
And so many of us, you've been married 6-ish years, I've been married 7 years. That's nothing compared to what's in front of us. And who knows what trials and tribulations are going to come our way. But I think going into it with the mindset of this is a commitment.
Right.
We understand love is a choice. I think that sets us up for much better of a chance.
On the bad days, you're reminding yourself that, okay, I can choose to love this person. It's a bad, just like my husband had to with me. This is a, you know what I'm saying? This is a weird week we're having, but we'll get through it.
So speaking of romance, what about when you are in those really hard seasons where like romance is not to be seen? I'm particularly thinking about like immediately postpartum or when one of your children are sick or when work is really, really demanding.
Yeah, I mean, for us, there are definitely seasons where romance isn't a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like where it's literally not a thing. And I could tell you where weeks have gone by where we've been like, we have, you know what I'm saying? There's not been nothing about you and I. It's been all about our kids or all about work or whatever. But then like regrouping, you know, like regrouping and
so
coming
our
back.
friend who is, speaking of postpartum, our friend who is postpartum, and this is not every woman's experience, and this is not every experience, like even a single woman might have a different experience for each postpartum, but she is feeling so connected to her husband, and feeling so much romance towards him, even though there's probably nothing happening physically. The way he's supporting her and the way she's feeling supported, like that is romance, where you're taking care of a newborn baby and you have 3 other small kids that need to be taken care of, and your husband's stepping up to fill that role. Like that is what we should be shouting from the rooftops, is romance.
Yeah. I think that it, like you just said, it changes in every season of like what the need is, you know? You were talking about how your love language is and how love languages change. I mean, I'd be interested to know what her love language is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if it's shifted, we'll have to have her on.
I know.
But yeah, I think that if you can just stick it out and remind yourself that it's a choice to love this person, remind yourself that it's a choice to find the joy, learn to say I'm sorry. These are just all things I wish I could tell to my younger self, that I wouldn't have been so, I'm saying young Olivia that just got married. I feel like it would have made our first year go so much smoother.
I just want to give a quick shout out to our husbands who are just, they're both committed to growth. They're both committed to loving their families well, providing for their families. And we really are, even though we've both been through some crap in our past, as of especially the last few years, we really are speaking from a place of immense privilege when it comes to the situation that we're in with our husbands.
Yeah.
Man, some women are probably going through really tough times where they can't even relate to trying to get on a romantic level because they're dealing with so much in their lives or with their marriages. And again, we might, who knows, we might just reiterate this every single episode, but we want to pray for you. Like we want to connect with you.
Yeah. And I would also like to say too, and we don't have to get into this episode because we're almost out of time, but
we really are. Our first episode went a little off the rails at like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. So whenever I say all of these things to you, I say it again with the most grace. I feel like I'm going to say that every episode because my life has not always looked like this. My husband and I have done a lot of hard work to get to where we are with each other and spiritually. And so I say that to you to give you the most hope, because don't stop praying. Don't stop praying for your husband's salvation if he doesn't know Jesus. Don't stop praying for whatever it is, because God's listening and he's working behind the scenes. I promise he is. He's working behind the scenes when you think that he's not even listening. He's working for your good. So don't stop praying.
I'm very thankful for our husbands. I'm very thankful for you. I'm thankful for the villages that we've built around ourselves and for our healthy kids. Like we're just in a sweet season right now where I feel like we have the capacity to pour into other women. And I really do feel so just thankful, and I also acknowledge that the tides could change so quickly. I try to keep my hands open to what's coming next in our lives, realizing like romance will change for us over the course of our life. As our kids enter new seasons, things might get harder, and this has been so fun, this whole podcast experience. I'm so thankful to be doing with you. And I hope it's encouraging.
Yeah.
And go follow us on Instagram at Related to Motherhood. We really do want to get your feedback on this episode and our past 3 episodes. We want to open conversations, particularly with stay-at-home and work-from-home moms or women who desire to be that. That's really who we're speaking to, the Christian mamas who have a desire to honor the Lord and to serve their families well. And so we are Related by Marriage,
We're related in Christ.
Join us each week as we chat all things related to motherhood.
We did it! Ah!